This is your Pretty Girl Politics 101 on Black Whimsy.
I'm just a girl in the world. I'm just a girl living
Because somebody has to.
Hi, welcome. My name is Ever, and today we are going to have a discussion about Black Whimsy, which I know has been trending over the last year, but I am always a girl for the history and the political theory. So I wanted to do a Black Whimsy video, but I wanted to talk about our lineage of Black Whimsy. Let's get into the history. Let's get into how we get to be in a place where we have a Solange and a Willow and a Doechii, where the space for that was cultivated. It's nothing new. It's centuries old. We've always had resilient swag. Yeah, I just really wanted to get into our foundations. This is your Pretty Girl Politics 101 on Black Whimsy. Like, comment, subscribe. Let's get into it. Imagine a clearing in the woods, 1850 something, deep enough in the dark that no overseer's lantern reaches it. A woman is dancing there, barefoot, and clinging to the memory her grandmother once told her that some of the elders could still fly. That on the right night, arms out, they lift clean off the ground and sail back over the ocean home. Now picture Paris, 100 years later. Josephine Baker on stage in a skirt made of bananas, eyes rolling back, turning an entire room's contempt into her own subversive joke. Now picture Chicago. Decades after that, a man named Sun Ra walks off the stage in a glittering pharaoh cape and tells a reporter, completely straight-faced, that he's not from Alabama, he's from Saturn. That's the world I'd like us to explore. Fanciful freedom flight, glitter, myth, magic, a whole lot of wonder. Historians have called it many things, but it's a beauty in resilience Black people have been building in this world for centuries. Today, we're calling it Black Whimsy, and I've been thinking a lot about that lineage, especially after spending my day researching extremism and disinformation. If there's anything that will kill your spirit, it is that. But I've realized that under capitalism, joy is a political choice, and no one can create magic in my life other than me. As someone whose job is staring into the ugliest parts of the internet, I've realized it's one of the biggest existential decisions we face right now. Everyone's overstimulated, everyone's like sad and like anxious about where we're going in the world. And I think that that's a lot to try and still have a fanciful worldview and perspective to maintain hope. But I think that that is also the point. For me, for a long time, joy felt guilty. Like I was supposed to carry the weight of the world out of respect for those that suffer more intensely than I. Like joy, given my acute awareness of the state of the world, was a little disrespectful, a little unserious. But I don't think that anymore. And the more I studied where those warring instincts actually like came from, that clearing in the woods, the banana skirt, Sun Ra's cape, the more I realized all of it is the same story. And the more I chose to dance. So here is my unoriginal thesis. The fantastical, the eccentric, the soft, the deliberately unserious, none of it is a retreat from politics. It is a form of politics. It's what happens when people who are only ever allowed to be seen through pain decide, deliberately, to be seen through wonder instead. Whimsy was never the opposite of serious. But I think there's a lot of connotations with whimsy. But I think we've been sold a very like flat idea of what resistance is supposed to look like. So let's rewind. I want to take us to this idea of the body as the last thing you're allowed to control. So historian Stephanie Camp writes about rival geographies. The secret dance circles, midnight gatherings, and forbidden worship enslaved women built inside a system designed to own every hour of their day, choosing to sing, to dress up, to rest, to feel pleasure in a body the law called property. Camp argues that that wasn't a break from resistance, it was the resistance. Audre Lorde would later come in and name this the erotic. Not sex, but a deep internal reserve of joy and aliveness that oppression can never fully reach. She called guarding it an act of political warfare. I just finished Pleasure Activism by Adrienne Maree Brown. That was a lot of inspiration for me kind of adopting this worldview. So I just want to credit that. It's a great book. You should read it. Whimsy actually predates the dance circles, right? It's in the stories first. Enslaved people told each other about ancestors who could fly, who could one day sprout wings and cross the Atlantic home. Pure fantasy, right? Physically impossible, which is exactly the point. When your body is in chains, your imagination is the one territory nobody can enslave. So in 1865, when newly emancipated communities in Texas didn't just celebrate freedom, they dressed for it. That was whimsy. Bright colors, elaborate fabric, most impractical clothing they could find. After generations of being legally required to dress plainly, They decided to pop out. That's how we got the first Juneteenth, and it was all rooted in whimsy. And that's not vanity. That is a people saying, my body is no longer for your labor. It is for my delight. Okay, but like, why does this keep happening? To zoom out real quick, this is not specific to Black people. It's just when we do it, we have a certain je ne sais quoi. But whimsy is doing something very specific on a universal level against a very specific enemy, and that is utility. Under slavery and then under capitalism, a Black body has historically only been legible to the culture in two ways: as labor or as trauma, something to extract from or something to pity. Scholar Fred Moten calls the alternative the undercommons, spaces of play, study, and closeness that refuse to be productive, refuse to be captured, refuse to be sold. He calls it fugitive because it escapes by being illegible. The Nat Ministry calls rest itself a reparation, a rebellion against what founder Tricia Hershey names grind culture. And more recently, cultural theorists have started naming this the politics of the unuseful, the idea that Black people have a right to leisure that produces absolutely nothing, not content, not a lesson, just delight. Let's look at the zoot suit through that lens. In the 1940s, wartime America was rationing fabric, and young Black and Latino men started wearing suits that used more of it. Wide-legged, oversized, deliberately excessive, during a shortage. That wasn't them being oblivious, that was their form of theater. It's a very stylish middle finger to a country that needed them small, quiet, and useful. But whimsy isn't just resisting capitalism, it's also refusing a much darker temptation: nihilism. When you spend your days in the worst of what people believe and do to each other, nihilism is like right there waiting. It would be so easy to decide nothing matters, that trying to be good or beautiful or hopeful inside a broken system is naive. This is where Frantz Fanon becomes strangely a guide to lightness. In Black Skin, White Mask, he warns against spending your life trying to be recognized and validated by the very people who dehumanized you. Later, thinkers push that further. To be whimsical, unbothered, eccentric, playing by your own rules, is a refusal to even negotiate with the white gaze. We're not asking permission to be taken seriously. You're somewhere else entirely, having a better time. That's existentialism, functionally. In a world with no meaning handed to you, you don't collapse. You author your own. For Black creators across a couple hundred years now, whimsy has been exactly that authorship. Not the world makes sense, but I will make something beautiful inside it anyway. Which brings us to the artists who turned that philosophy into performance. In the 1920s, Josephine Baker took a Paris stage in a costume made of bananas, rolling her eyes, contorting into pure absurdist comedy. And the audience read it as savage, primitive, a spectacle for their consumption. But if you watch it again, you'll realize she controlled every second of it. That's satire. That's surrealism. Before most of the room had the vocabulary, but babe, they might not have ever had the vocabulary. Baker weaponized exaggeration so completely that she owned the joke before anyone else could make it at her expense. Around the same era, the poet Amy Caesar was developing negritude alongside the European surrealists, and he made an argument, I think, about constantly. Colonization imposes a rigid, cold rationality onto colonized people. It tells you precisely what you are and aren't allowed to be. So embracing the illogical, the dreamlike, the whimsical isn't decoration. Caesar calls it a tool of intellectual decolonization. To be strange on purpose is to refuse the box. Nobody took that further than Sun Ra, who spent the 1970s insisting with total conviction that he was from Saturn, performing in glittering pharaonic space costumes, building a cosmic mythology he called the Alter Destiny. His logic: if the real world is fundamentally anti-Black, don't fight for a seat in it, build a better one, in the stars, in the sound and the costume. George Clinton and the Parliament Funkadelic did the same thing with the mothership. Funk as science fiction, freedom as a spaceship. That lineage runs straight through to Janelle Monáe and her android mythology, and Solange's pastel sculptural worlds. Whimsy as blueprint for a future we actually get to be in. And then there's a woman who bore this philosophy as a personality. Eartha Kitt built an entire persona out of refusing to be legible. That purr, that growl, that raised eyebrow, armor made of charm. In 1968, at a White House luncheon, she told Lady Bird Johnson exactly what she thought about Vietnam. And it cost her. Effectively blacklisted her from American entertainment for years. She kept performing anyway, all over the world, in every language she could, dressed exactly how she wanted, loving whoever she wanted. She didn't get quiet to earn her career back. She got more herself. And that is so respectable to me. There's a softer register of this in the same defiance in Cree Summer, who has spent 40 years giving her voice to hundreds of characters, most of them not even human. Elves, aliens, cartoon animals, wandering entirely invented worlds. As one of the first Black women whose voice built the imagination of a generation before they even knew what she looked like. Summer is living proof of something Kevin Quashie writes about in The Sovereignty of Quiet. That daydreaming, softness, interior wonder, these are their own forms of sovereignty. You don't have to be loud in the street to be radical. Sometimes you just have to insist consistently on being enchanted by things. We see so many iterations of this now. Doechii, Rihanna, Willow Smith, FKA Twigs, like Whimsy. We are the Whimsy. The Whimsy is strong, babe. The Whimsy is strong. And every one of them is doing what Josephine Baker did on that parrot stage a century ago, choosing their frame themselves. I don't think I dance. I don't know where the accent came from. I don't think I dance after a day of research in spite of what I study. I think it's because of it. I know exactly how much of the story of Black life gets told through struggle. I read that machinery every single day. Choosing curiosity, beauty, and a little bit of nonsense isn't me looking away from that. It's me refusing to let it be the whole entire story, the whole defining story. The same refusal Baker made, the same one Kitt made, the same one women were making in secret 200 years before either of them had a stage. Whimsy was never the opposite of serious. It was always the plan. So here is what I will leave you with. What's a thing you've talked yourself out of because it felt too silly? Too soft, too unserious for how heavy the world is right now. I'd push back on that instinct. Go be a little ridiculous today. Historically speaking, it's one of the most radical things you can do. If you like this video, please like, comment, and subscribe. I've been saying I'm gonna do this for so long now, and I had horrible camera fright for the last few months. I don't know what that's been, but my Substack article helped a lot with that because I felt like I didn't really have much to say, and then I was like, nobody cares, and you guys do care, so I just really appreciate it. And yeah, I'm excited to start this journey with you. I hope you liked it. I hope you learned. I hope to be talking more about things like this in the future, and I hope you guys are there for the journey. Bye.